this session. So this morning's session is about kind of sharing some best practice around how do we wrap up and finish 2023 and in the best way possible and leave our teams and I guess ourselves feeling kind of energized. And then how do we start to set ourselves up for a strong start to 2024? So I'm going to, I will share some kind of ideas with you, but the idea of this morning's session is that we get a chance to share some best practice, meet people and expand our business networks and have a conversation about what you're doing and listen to what other people are doing, because from that shared learning, you'll gather some insights and some hints and tips around what you could do differently as we finish this week and then as we go into January next year. So I have got a couple of slides. I'm not going to go too slide heavy, but I've got a couple of slides which I'll just share with you so that you can kind of see what I'm preparing for this morning. So let me just open that up. I'm just going to keep an eye on the waiting room as well, because we have got people joining us. Reader's just joined us. Hi, Reader and Dorcas. Dorcas, good morning to you both. Thank you for joining us. So I'm just going to share my screen. I'll share a few ideas for the first 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'm going to open up some breakout rooms and just give you a chance to talk to each other about what you're kind of planning to do and your best practice for 2023 and 24. So really today's about some ideas and idea sharing, give you some thinking time. So I want to think about, I know we're late in the cycle here, right? So you've literally got today and 2 more days, but how do we leave our teams and ourselves feeling good about 2023, feeling energized? And then how do we start to make a positive start, get people teed up to really hit the ground running as they go into 2024? That's the idea of this morning's conversation. So let's just share a few ideas. How do we leave our team feeling good? So like some really obvious stuff, okay, right? But obvious stuff that is very often overlooked. So saying thank you to people for their contribution in 2023. And not just thank you generically, but a specific thank you to key people in your teams. And the more specific you make it, the more personal it feels and the more energizing it is to each member of your team. The next thing I always like to do is discuss the highlights. So what are the kind of, the top things that have happened for that person related to the business throughout the last kind of 12 months, and get them to tell you as well, what do they think the highlights are? Because we really want people to remember, they say you remember the first thing that's said and the last thing that's said. Well, in a year, that final kind of discussing highlights can be really valuable for people, because it's the last thing they remember about the year that they've just completed. And then, of course, talking about feedback. So asking for feedback. How have they found it? How have they found being part of your team? How have they found working with you? And that feedback's really valuable, because once they share it, very often what people will do is kind of talk themselves into what has been a positive year and talk themselves into a positive situation as you start to reflect on the year. So that can be useful for people, because they kind of energize themselves without you having to do much except just kind of have the conversation with them. And then I like to think about, we talk about highlights, also talk about the positive impact that people have made. What positive impact have they made within their role? What positive impact have they made with customers, with their teammates, for you as their manager? What's been the key positive impacts that they've made? And you might have done this through reviews and appraisals perhaps, but it's well worth having this kind of final conversation with them about, the positive impact and contribution they've made to your team and the business. And then, of course, reminding them of wins. What are the key wins that they've had? And you can either, have a list yourself, or you can ask them to kind of talk about wins. We really want to focus people on the kind of positivity around the year, because it's a really great way to leave them uplifted as we think about 2023. And then the other area that can be useful, if in your business you have some clarity around the vision for the business, where you're going, the work you're doing, the meaning for it, and the values of the organization, the right kind of standards, behaviors, principles of which you operate in your marketplace, and have a conversation with your teams about where you've seen really strong alignment through their behaviors, through their performance, to the vision of the organization and the values that you find really important. And that is a really nice way to give people that connection, not only to how they feel about their performance, but connection to the business. and connection to where the business is going, and strengthening their commitment to kind of operate in the way that is optimal for you and the team. And then finally, as you think about the end of this week, a lot of people find December, really busy month. Certainly for me, there's a lot of stuff you try and get crammed in before you finish for the year, and nobody ever gets to the bottom of their to-do list, right? If anybody on the call has ever gotten to their bottom of their to-do list, please send me a note and tell me how you did it, because I've never once managed it. But because we don't get to the bottom of our to-do list, we have this kind of sometimes we go into the Christmas break with this like open loop. Oh God, I still didn't get that done, or still didn't get this done. And I've had this experience in the past where I've had team members who are like frazzled by the end of the year, and they say, yeah, but I still didn't get this, or I still didn't get that. And I've literally gone through this process where we say, well, let's talk about, the highlights from the year. Let's talk about the positive impact you've made. Let's talk about the behaviors that were in line with what we're really trying to achieve as a business. Let's look at the wins and the key, successes for the year. And when we go through that, then say, right, now, I'm as your manager, I'm giving you permission to switch off over the Christmas period, to completely recharge your batteries, to give yourself that mental space you need so that you can be present with your family, with your friends, enjoy that period of time that you've got when everybody else is off. So emails slow down, the noise and the general traffic that we experience tends to reduce over the Christmas period. So take advantage of it, make the most of it. You have my permission to switch off. That can be really powerful as a way to give people that final kind of draw a line under 2023, give myself some recharge space, ready then to come back in 2024. So that's some kind of tips from me. This isn't an exhaustive list, but hopefully it's useful as you start to think about those conversations with your teams. So what I'm going to do, if you're all game for it, is I'm going to open up some breakout rooms and give you the chance just to have a conversation with each other about what you're doing. So how are you kind of signing off 2023, the conversations with your teams, because really it's about making ourselves and our teams feel positive about the year that they've had. And then we'll come back, take some feedback, and then we'll talk about, okay, how do we tee up 2024? So we'll have a second round of breakout rooms as well. So I'm just going to create some random breakout rooms, which will give you the chance just to talk to, some different people, hopefully all meet somebody new. And I'll give you 10 minutes on this just to kind of share some ideas, introduce each other. And then at the end, when we regroup, if I could ask you just to have one person in the group that's happy to just share feedback from your collective discussion. So someone might want to take a few notes or at least pay attention to what's being said, if that's all right. So let me open up the rooms. I hope you enjoy meeting your colleagues today, and we'll be back in 10 to take some feedback. So enjoy those discussions. See you in about 10 minutes.
And the others are slightly smaller, so that that it's kind of reflecting on yourself and not being as harsh. Pauline, again, she's had a lot of kind of recruiter engagement throughout kind of November, and is now kind of taking self-reflection. She was looking to go away to kind of like just take time out around Asia, but she's put that on hold simply because her mother's not well. So this is where the family element has kind of come back in to her side, but equally she does want to kind of take time out, and so she is doing a ski trip. Was I correct in saying that, Pauline? Where she kind of unwind with her close colleagues, with a view to kind of recharging herself and being able to be that support element for her mum. Did I cover everything on there, Pauline, from your part?
The gifts.
And
how
yes,
we send hampers,
yes,
gift boxes to customers, and to say thank you to colleagues, friends, just the appreciation, just little things that count. Thank you for doing business with us. Thank you for being my friend, supporting each other.
Absolutely. So that kind of overlapped with also Reader. Reader actually does these small kind of gift sets, etc. So it was a lot easier for him. I think from my point of view, I was supposed to sign off last Friday, but when you work independently and calls come in, you cannot kind of really ignore them. So before I leave to go see Mum today, I'll probably send some emails to some of my top customers just to thank them for 2023, and start looking towards 2024. There are some plans, what we have already discussed kind of in November and December, and we'll touch base on them probably from the second week of January. So I'll get as much done first half of the year so that I can sort of build revenue for my customers. Challenge I have and always have is winding down. I kind of really struggle, and as I mentioned to the group, this year from a business point of view has been fantastic, but it's been a real challenge. Yesterday was a year that I lost my father, so it's
I'm sorry to hear that.
it's a kind of, it's been a tough one, but it's been a good one on both sides. So they're the challenges that I have, is the winding up off and just leaving it parked up in terms of work, because I know I will take calls.
Yeah, maybe you need to give yourself permission to switch off, Nadine.
Yeah.
You know? Sometimes it's about what we can do for ourselves as well as for our customers and our teams, isn't it? You know.
Yes.
Nice. Thanks, Nadine. Thanks for sharing that. That's useful. Room 2, Joseph. You and Simon were together. I think you had Jason, but I think he must have lost connection because he's not with you anymore. But Joseph, Simon, what did you guys discuss?
Yeah, Jason had problems with his mic, but Simon, would you like to summarize?
I can do, yeah. So thing that I liked Joseph mentioned was that he gets his team to, I think it's similar to what you were suggesting, Justin, to highlight and just bullet point their sort of successes and wins in the year, and then Joseph can sort of pick those out and thank them. You know, pick out sort of successes that they identify themselves. And therefore, I think perhaps the message is stronger because it's a success that resonates with them, rather than maybe one that Joseph has picked that they maybe don't value as much. So I thought that was quite a good idea to do that. I was explaining to Joseph, not so much for finishing off the year, but a big part for me currently is thinking about, we have the whole team together in January and have our sort of kick-off meeting where we're very transparent. I was explaining to Joseph, in our business we've got some very obvious metrics to measure success, so everybody kind of knows whether we're doing well or not against what our objective is. So, you know, at the beginning of the year, we'll set out what that objective is, but also, you know, it's not just a number plucked from thin air. And so we have the whole team engaged and understanding, you know, how we're going to get there, and just that transparency and communication, so that everybody understands what we're doing, why we're doing it, and has an opportunity sort of feedback and input on that, and help steer the ship, so to speak.
Nice. Yeah, nice. And so you're kind of reconnecting with those goals at the end of the year as well, Simon, just so that everybody's clear on what they've achieved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's very much a summary of the year that's passed, and also then setting out the sort of vision and journey we're going to try and take in the year ahead. And I think the other thing that Joseph and I touched on is just we both recently had our teams together for the sort of end of year festive bash, and you know, just the sort of importance of that, and everybody letting their hair down a little in a more casual environment is always good fun and important.
Yeah.
That was it, I think, Joseph. Anything to add?
Yeah, no, all good. Just an anecdotal story. So as Sam just mentioned, it's a time where we're taking teams out for dinner, and sometimes we'll give them some gifts and so on. And so we've been pulling out the gifts to the customers during December because they're globally placed. So, you know, it takes time to get all these things out. And then we had the bash, and we gave them some, some physical gift to them, and also an Amazon voucher, which worked out really well because, they think, okay, I'm going to spend that on the family. I've got this thing in front of me. Awesome, really happy. But anecdotal and different for this year, one of my sponsors at a very large tech company, so, $70+ billion business, is acting CMO. She's leaving. She's been there for 30 years. And so for the last 48 hours, we've been scrambling together, the team with the leadership team in my company, to find a way to thank her. Originally, we sent a gift, and obviously it was a special gift. And somebody had this idea of, why don't we do a video, of thanks of the leadership? And you can imagine all these people are trying to wind down, as you said, and they've been asked to pull their mobile phones up and do 10-second recordings. And somebody in marketing has to create a collage of all this stuff. And we've got to get it all out of the door tonight. So, we haven't done one of these for ages, but I think it's a nice, sort of bigger thank you for, very special occasions. And, they're fun as well, right? Even if it's a scramble, I think it's a nice thought to have, and they will appreciate that, it is a bit of a scramble, but it's a big thank you. So we're working on that as we speak. So I'm hoping to get that out today. So I just thought I'd share that.
Nice.
I love that, Joseph. I love that.
So do I, actually. Yeah, I love the idea of a video, and it's also something. I mean, I don't know if any of you have kind of used WhatsApp broadcast lists, but in WhatsApp you can create a broadcast list where you can basically pull all your contacts together, and then if you record, say, a video to say, look, thanks so much for your support during the year, that you can then send it to everybody through that broadcast list. So so it's not one-to-one personal, but it could be a message that you can communicate out to a lot of people that just says, thanks for your support this year, really appreciate it, looking forward to working with you in 2024. That can be quite valuable. I normally pull that together as just a final sign-off, so I'll probably do mine by Friday this week. So if you're in my contacts list, you'll probably receive it. No, very good. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Joseph. And then we had Mike, Dorcas, and Leanne were together.
Yes, so we had a nice chat, myself, Leanne, and Dorcas. Leanne mentioned that she just kind of had her kind of yearly wrap up with her team this morning, and kind of talked through the sort of success of the year, basically, which is great. She loved your idea of like thanking everyone individually. So it's now down to her to get around the entire team by midday today before she signs off for Christmas.
Ouch.
So
not too much pressure then, hey?
No, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
It's okay.
We're kind of discussing like it might be a bit more generic this year, maybe a bit more personalized next year, but good luck, Leanne.
Thank you.
Dorcas mentioned that she and her team had done an exercise this month, sort of looking at each other's sort of weaknesses and strengths, kind of like constructive feedback. And she mentioned that, it's quite nice because sometimes a weakness that you think is a weakness is actually perceived by others as a strength. So it's kind of like a nice sort of reaffirming situation. And then I mentioned that I liked your idea of telling people, like, look, don't do any more work over Christmas. Like, take the break off. Your to-do list is always going to be there. But I was just wondering, like, rather than being anxious about coming back to your to-do list in January, could you do that sort of process where you're doing like a, delegate, delete, delay, kind of like, because some of the stuff on your to-do list for this year might not be appropriate for next year. And actually you come back to hopefully a smaller to-do list, like without having to worry about it over the Christmas. And, no one, dread coming back to a massive to-do list after Christmas would suck.
Yeah. Going through that process is really useful, actually, Mike. You're right, because then it gives you a clearer focus going into 2024. So actually what's your not to-do list is as important as your to-do list. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, nice. And I like the strengths, weaknesses idea and conversations with your teams. Really good. Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Dorcas. Thank you, Leanne. So we're just gone past the halfway point. So I want to kind of turn our attention now. Hopefully some useful kind of principles there around 2023. Let's turn our attention now to 2024. So you've got some things you could perhaps do before we close for December. As we think about 2024, let me just share. I'll just share a couple of slides with you. Just give you some ideas, and then we can go into. I'm going to shake up the breakout room, so I'll just give you a bit of a refresh. So you'll be with somebody different for this second session. So I want to, has everyone heard, you might have heard me talk about this before, but there's this there's this kind of system in the brain called the reticular activating system. I don't know if you've heard about it, but I'm gonna talk about this just for a second, because what the reticular activating system does is it's basically a system in your brain that gets you to focus on something specific that you want. And it starts to drown out and filter out anything that doesn't align with it. So as we start to think about goal setting for 2024, the reason we set goals is obviously to progress and achieve them. But the other reason for setting goals is because it fine-tunes your mind. It focuses you on, this is what I want to achieve. And so your brain starts looking for it. You know that when you're looking for either a new car or maybe a new watch or a new piece of jewelry or a new piece of tech, it starts to show up everywhere. And one of the reasons for that, as well as kind of Siri and Google hacking into all of your messaging and putting it in front of you in ads, right? As well as that, it's also because your mind starts to focus and notices it. So it's particularly prevalent with a car. If there's a new car you're looking at or a type of car you really like, it just keeps turning up every time you're out and about. And that's because your brain is tuned into looking for it. And it's the same with goals. So we really want our teams to start to define clear goals, because they will then tune into the activities and the opportunities to achieve them and leverage them. So really important. There's a really important piece here around the psychological impact of goal setting. But what can we do to kickstart 2024? I mean, some of these things we could be starting to do now, but as we think about 2024, certainly agreeing your annual goal. Simon mentioned it. I think most of you will do this. What's the goal for next year? Whether that's a target if you're in sales, or it's an overarching goal if you're in a support function that isn't sales. Setting clear objectives and expectations that will help you to achieve those goals, right? So the goal first, then the objectives and expectations that help your teams to achieve those goals. And I like to think of them as kind of the leading metrics, what the activities and the metrics that our teams can start to focus on that will help them achieve their goals for the year. And then something that is obvious, but very often overlooked, is scheduling one-to-one reviews with the key members, if not all members of your teams. And one of the things I try and do is schedule these for the year, right? So get them in the diary for the year so that you are committed to them and so that your team know when they're going to be checking in with you. And that becomes a rhythm and a frequency whereby you can then help manage their performance. And in that early review, if you haven't done it already, start to talk with each member of your team about high performance because of this goal setting principle. Start to ask them, what does the highest level of performance look like for you? What more should we be doing to help you elevate performance and look at, I like the discussion as well also about world class. What does world class performance look like? And it just starts to get people thinking differently about the way they contribute. And then, of course, there is this whole piece around building trust and starting to coach people and getting an agreement on what that trust looks like and what coaching for that person looks like. And coaching is not the same as as kind of telling people what to do. It's more about giving. I always think about it as handing the baton. We're handing the baton to our team so that they take greater responsibility for their performance, and our job is to coach them. So we're just coaching them to get better and better and better. And thinking about that continual improvement really helps them kind of start to think about how they get better through 2024. And that's how performance improves, when people's skills get better. And of course, that links nicely to personal development plans and personal development goals. So for them, as well as achieving things in the business, what are they going to work on to get better, to develop greater skills, to become more effective and efficient in their roles, and to start to document that into some kind of personal development plan and set some goals for them personally. And then finally, something I've found is really useful is to kind of ask people, if you don't know this already, why do they do the work they do? What's their personal motivation and purpose? And I run this as an exercise in a lot of groups that I run with client workshops and stuff. And there's always something unusual or different or surprising comes out when we ask this question. Why is it important that you're successful in your role? Or why is your work meaningful to you? those questions are really useful because you'll be surprised at what comes up when you ask that question, because sometimes we think it's one thing, and for a lot of people, it's something completely different. So really useful as a way to kind of get energy going, get people focused and motivated as you kickstart 2024. So there's some ideas I've just thrown out for you. I'm going to open up our breakout rooms. We've got a couple of breakout rooms this time because the numbers have changed. We've had, I think we might have had a couple of people drop out. So 2 breakout rooms. So if you just discuss ways that you've found or that you're planning to get your teams kind of focused, energized, motivated, ready to kickstart 2024. So let me open those rooms. We'll have another 10 minutes on this, then we'll come back and get feedback again. So enjoy the conversation. See you shortly. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as well. So let's just take a quick bit of feedback before we wrap up. We've got 10 minutes remaining for today's session. So room 1 was Pauline, Rita and Simon. How did you guys get on?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, I think Reader was expressing that, so he targets dentistry, but he's looking to go out to sort of a more general marketplace going into next year. So he's been sort of with regards to plans 2024, just communicating that really and letting people know that what his plans are. I think Pauline's objective at the minute is she's looking for the next opportunity and a new role, but she shared some really interesting insight about past sales kickoff meetings that she's attended, and just having a look at the year past and then what the objectives are moving forward. One of the things that I took away from that we had quite a bit of a detailed chat about was just like awards. And actual like maybe a physical little trophy or something for performances, and what value is there in that, because we just pay a bonus. We don't do anything like that for, I don't know, like a top performer, or if somebody's achieved whatever it may be. And both Reader and Pauline were saying they both feel that it really symbolizes something, and it can really just sort of reflect. If you ask somebody what their bonus was 5 years ago, they might not remember. But if you ask what awards they won 5 years ago, then quite often I think they would remember.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And then for myself, I think you touched on it, Justin, but I've got those days in mid-January with each of the sales guys to have pretty much a full day with them to present the target and chat through that, and then agree a plan on how we're going to achieve that, and then all the sales team meetings thereafter and monthly one-to-ones are all in the diary already for next year, just so everybody's set in knowing how we're going to engage and catch up on a regular basis into the new year.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. Thanks, Simon. Excellent. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes, as you say, those awards or rewards are more personal. They just mean a bit more to people than just the money. I know that, the money's important, right? Because it helps you to live the lifestyle. But actually, that just it very quickly becomes just forgotten in the past. Whereas that recognition and the status of winning an award is something completely different. So yeah, I'm glad that's a useful takeaway.
And then so say if you're clearing the house, you move house. Most of the time you clear a lot of junk. Awards, trophies, you don't throw them away. You keep them practically for life. My mum kept them for like 50 years.
Yeah, it's true. It means a lot, doesn't it? It's such an important personal kind of recognition. Yeah, very good.
It's a symbol, yeah.
Yeah, good, very good ideas. Thank you, Pauline. That's great. So room 2 was Joseph, Leanne, Mike, and Dean. Who's did you kind of discuss who would give us some feedback?
Yeah, apparently I self-nominated, so
well done. Mike and Simon have both been collared twice today. Well done, Mike.
So I'm just going to pick. I know you're sort of tight on time, so I'm just going to pick out one thing from everyone. So Joseph mentioned that he would like to actually take some time to actually review the vision and values. Sometimes we rush into the next year, say we're going to do these things and don't. So actually taking that time to kind of review that with like himself and the team. Nadeem mentioned just wants to re-engage with prospects that previously previously said no or couldn't get quite over the line.
Yeah.
You know, figuring out whether it was an actual no or just no, not now.
Yeah.
And then hope, you know, in the push to expand. Leanne said she's going to be trying to get better at booking those one-to-ones and actually sort of prioritizing them, which is great. And then I mentioned that I was going to book one-to-ones with myself and figure out what questions I'm going to ask myself at a regular cadence. So yeah, it's a good chat. There was a lot more discussed, but I don't want to take up all the time.
Very good. No, very good. And Mike, you're on our coaching leaders program, so you're going to get an accountability partner for that as we go through 2024. So hopefully that'll be useful for you, because you'll get, not only you won't just have to book a one-to-one with yourself, you'll have someone else that you can book a one-to-one with.
I'm starting to think, do I have to dress up and just like jump either side of the table? Like
That I'd pay to see. If you recorded that, that could go viral, Mike, if you get that right.
Or just do the half and half thing and just be like, you know, this sort of thing. You know, we've seen that, haven't we?
Love it. Spacesuit comes to mind, Mike. There you go.
Yes.
Time to roll that back out. Brilliant. Thank you, Mike, and thank you to your group. So we've got a couple of minutes left of today's session. Just give you a moment to reflect. Just think about key actions from today, and what it is you're looking to kind of take away from this session. Because sometimes we'll race. I bet you've all got 10:30s, so you'll all be racing off to another call. So just give yourself a moment to think. What is it that you want to achieve and take away from today's session? A couple of things in the chat. So Pauline's dropped her LinkedIn profile in. If you would like to connect, then feel free to drop yours in there as well. So thank you, Pauline. That's a great reminder. So feel free to connect with each other on LinkedIn. Reed has also put his email in there. So if anybody wants to connect with Reader, please do. I can take the chat notes from today's session. So when I send a follow-up email from today, I'll put those chat notes in, so you'll get LinkedIn, Pauline's LinkedIn connection and Reader's email as well. So I'll confirm that on email following today's session. And I'd love to just kind of say final things. If anybody is interested in a one-to-one, let me just put that. I'm happy to schedule like a 45-minute coaching session or a one-to-one catch-up. Feel free to do that. Just put that in the chat as well. If there's something for 2024 you'd like to focus in on, and you want, you know, a 45-minute session on just being coached, so that's not advice, that's kind of questioning you and giving you some specific focus around what you need to kind of change and improve as you go into 2024. Feel free to book a session with me in January, and I'll happily do that complimentary as a thank you for coming to today's session. We have there's a number of things kind of going on, I'm sure, for you over Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful break, and a bit like you're going to give your teams permission to switch off and recharge. I'd love to give you permission to switch off and recharge, particularly you, Nadine, right? This is permission today to switch off and recharge when you finish. Right. So I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, everybody, and do keep in touch. And if you'd like to catch up with me, you know, feel free, just drop me a note, drop me a message, and I'll hope to see you all in person in the new year. So that's it for today's session. Just a reminder to have a wonderful Christmas, and I look forward to hopefully celebrating a great 2024 with you all as well. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Cheers, Justin. Thank you.
Nice
Thank
meeting
you.
you all.
Justin. Thanks for running the
Bye-bye.
sessions for
Pleasure.
2023.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks, Pauline. Thanks for your support. Appreciate it. Have a
And
great
happy Christmas to
Yeah, you
everyone
too.
as well.
Thanks, Nadine. Take care, everyone.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. See you. Bye.